Something just shifted in the forecast. And if you live in the United Kingdom, the next few days could change the way you sleep, work, and move through your own home. The Met Office has issued a red extreme heat warning. This is the most severe category that exists in British weather forecasting, and it covers parts of central and southern England and Wales. Red warnings are not handed out for ordinary hot weather. They are reserved for events that forecasters believe could genuinely put lives at risk, and that is exactly when her sentence made you sit up a little. You are reacting the same way meteorologists are. Like and subscribe if you want to keep seeing breakdowns like this one before they hit the headlines. This particular warning is in effect from 9 in the morning on Wednesday through 9 in the evening on Thursday. During that window, temperatures across the warned regions are expected to climb into territory that has not been recorded in this country during the month of June. The current record stands at 35.6 degrees Celsius. It was set decades ago in Southampton in 1976 and matched at Camden Square back in 1957. Forecasters are now saying it is very likely that this record will fall within the next 48 hours. A weather record that has survived for almost 50 years could be broken this week, and most people outside the meteorological community do not even know it is happening. That is the kind of gap between what is unfolding and what the public understands that this video exists to close. If this surprises you even a little, hit like and subscribe before you keep watching. What makes this heat wave different from a normal warm spell is not just the daytime temperature. It is the humidity sitting alongside it. Dew points are the measurement meteorologists use to describe how saturated the air is with moisture. They are expected to reach around 22 degrees Celsius in some areas on Wednesday and Thursday. For comparison, during the widely remembered heat wave of July 2022, dew points were noticeably lower than that. In plain terms, this means the air itself will feel heavier and stickier. It will be far more oppressive than a dry heat of the same temperature would feel. Your body cools itself by sweating and letting that sweat evaporate. But when humidity is this high, evaporation slows down dramatically, and your internal temperature has fewer ways to drop. According to verified Met Office statements, this combination of extreme heat and high humidity is what turns an uncomfortable few days into a genuine public health emergency. Subscribe and like this video if you want more of these science-backed breakdowns explained in plain English. There's another detail buried in this forecast that deserves far more attention than it is currently getting. That is the concept of a tropical night. A tropical night occurs when the overnight low temperature never drops below 20 degrees Celsius. That means there is no real relief even after the sun goes down. Reports suggest that widespread tropical nights are expected across parts of England and Wales during this event, especially in urban areas where concrete and asphalt hold onto heat long after sunset. Think about what that actually means for a normal household. No cool breeze through an open window at 2 in the morning, no natural drop in body temperature during sleep. For people without air conditioning, which describes the vast majority of homes in this country, that lack of overnight recovery is precisely what turns manageable daytime heat into a multi-day health crisis. The body simply never gets a chance to reset. This single fact alone is why officials are treating this event so seriously. If you did not know what a tropical night was 5 minutes ago, please like and subscribe, because this channel exists to translate weather science into information you can actually use. The official response from public health authorities has matched the seriousness of the forecast. The UK Health Security Agency has issued a red heat health alert covering 6 regions of England. That includes the West Midlands, the East Midlands, the South East, the South West, London, and the East of England. According to UKHSA, this marks only the second time in the agency's history that a red heat health alert has been issued. The first occurred during the record-breaking heat wave of July 2022. A red alert is not a recommendation. It is the highest tier of warning the agency has. It explicitly states that the situation poses a risk to life for even healthy members of the public, not just the elderly or chronically ill, who are usually flagged as vulnerable groups. Dr. Agostinho Souza leads extreme event and health protection work at UKHSA. He has been quoted as saying that simple actions like staying hydrated, avoiding the sun during peak hours, and keeping homes cool can make a meaningful difference. But the underlying message is unmistakable. This is not weather to simply tolerate. Like and subscribe right now if you think more people need to see this before Wednesday arrives. Beyond the health alert itself, officials have flagged that this event could ripple outward into infrastructure that most of us take entirely for granted. According to reports from UKHSA and the Met Office, the combination of extended extreme heat could place pressure on transport systems, energy supplies, water availability, and even food distribution networks. Rail networks in particular tend to face speed restrictions when rails expand in extreme heat. This can cause delays even when nothing has technically broken down. Power grids face increased strain as millions of households and businesses simultaneously reach for fans, refrigeration, and whatever cooling equipment they have available. None of this is speculation or fear-mongering. It is the documented pattern that follows extreme heat events in a country whose infrastructure, frankly, was not built with this kind of climate in mind. The UK has a temperate climate history. Its building stock, transport network, and energy grid reflect decades of design choices made for a cooler, wetter world that is now shifting beneath everyone's feet. Subscribe and like if you want to understand how climate volatility is quietly reshaping infrastructure decisions across the country. It is worth pausing here to look at the bigger picture this single event sits inside. According to climate scientists and multiple attribution studies referenced by the Met Office, the frequency and intensity of heat waves has increased worldwide. This is not a vague or contested claim within the scientific community. Researchers have specifically studied past UK heat events, including the summer of 2018 and the heat wave of July 2022. They have concluded that human influence increased the likelihood of those specific events occurring. Met Office projections indicate that hot spells are expected to become more frequent in the country's future climate, with the southeast of England singled out as particularly exposed. Temperatures are projected to rise across all seasons, but the most intense increases are expected to land in summer. That is exactly the pattern playing out in real time this week. This heat wave is not an isolated anomaly sitting outside the broader trend. Verified sources describe it as a visible data point inside a pattern that has been building for years. If that context changes how you think about this week's forecast, like and subscribe so you do not miss the next update. It also helps to understand why this particular forecast is being treated with so much more urgency than a typical warm week in June. The UK's heatwave threshold is not a single fixed number applied everywhere. According to the Met Office, a heatwave is officially declared when a location records at least 3 consecutive days with daily maximum temperatures meeting or exceeding a threshold specific to that county. This reflects how genuinely diverse the climate is across different parts of this country. A temperature that triggers heatwave criteria in the cooler north might be considered a normal summer afternoon in the southeast. That regional variation is part of why some areas are sitting under red alerts while others, mainly to the northwest, are expected to see far milder conditions. Cloudier and more unsettled weather is forecast there during the very same 48 hours. So if you are watching this from Scotland or the northwest of England and wondering why your sky does not match the headlines, that is not an error in reporting. It is the forecast genuinely splitting the country into 2 very different weather realities at the same time. Like and subscribe if breaking down these regional differences is useful to you. So what does all of this actually mean for you, practically, starting right now? If you live in one of the regions under the red alert, the guidance from health authorities is specific and worth repeating clearly. That means the West Midlands, East Midlands, Southeast, Southwest, London, or East of England. Keep your home cool by closing windows and curtains in rooms that receive direct sunlight during the day. Then open them in the cooler evening hours to let air circulate. Avoid direct sun exposure between 11 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon, when ultraviolet levels and ambient temperature both peak simultaneously. If you must go outside during that window, cover up with appropriate clothing, wear a hat, use sunglasses, and apply sunscreen regularly rather than just once in the morning. Any physical activity, including something as simple as walking a dog, should be shifted to the cooler parts of the day, either early morning or evening. You should actively check forecasts to time those windows correctly rather than guessing. These are not generic suggestions. They are the specific official recommendations being issued by the UK Health Security Agency in direct response to this exact event. Equally important is knowing how to recognize when heat has crossed from uncomfortable into dangerous, both in yourself and in people around you. Heat. Exhaustion typically presents as heavy sweating, dizziness, headache, nausea, and a rapid pulse. It is generally treatable by moving to a cool place, removing excess clothing, and drinking water steadily. Heat stroke is the more severe escalation. Warning signs include EA, high body temperature, confusion, a lack of sweating despite the heat, and in some cases, loss of consciousness. According to verified medical guidance, heat stroke is a genuine emergency that requires immediate medical attention, not home remedies. Officials are specifically asking the public to check on elderly relatives, neighbors, and anyone with underlying health conditions during this window. These are the groups most likely to experience serious complications without realizing how quickly their situation is deteriorating. Reports also note that people with long-term conditions like heart disease, diabetes, or respiratory illness face elevated risk during sustained heat. The body has to work harder than normal just to regulate its own temperature, placing extra strain on systems that may already be compromised. If you have an older relative living alone, this might genuinely be the week to call them, or better yet, visit. Like and subscribe if this is the kind of practical, useful detail you came here for. There's also a quieter risk hiding inside this story that officials have specifically highlighted, and it has nothing to do with temperature directly. It involves water. As people understandably seek relief from the heat by heading to beaches, rivers, and lakes, water safety officials have issued a parallel warning that deserves equal attention. According to the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, sea surface temperatures around the UK coastline remain significantly colder than air temperatures during a heat wave like this one. That holds true even though it might not feel that way standing on a hot beach. Entering cold water unexpectedly after being in extreme heat can trigger something called cold water shock. This causes a sudden and involuntary increase in breathing and heart rate that can lead to panic, even in strong swimmers. Officials are specifically advising people to choose life-guarded beaches, swim only between the marked flags, and call emergency services immediately if anyone appears to be struggling in open water. This is a detail that almost never makes it into mainstream heatwave coverage, yet it represents one of the most preventable risks tied to this entire event. Subscribe and like this video if you think more heatwave coverage should include this kind of safety detail. Looking just slightly further ahead, forecasters expect this particular peak to ease somewhat as high pressure gradually shifts eastward toward the end of the week. This should bring some relief to most of the country. However, reports suggest that the southeast of England may retain exceptional warmth for longer than other regions, even as conditions elsewhere begin returning closer to seasonal norms. There remains genuine uncertainty among forecasters about exactly how quickly temperatures will fall once this peak passes. Additional warnings could still be issued if confidence around that timeline shifts in either direction. What is not uncertain is the broader trajectory. This event fits squarely inside a pattern of earlier, hotter, and more humid extremes that the UK has been recording with increasing frequency in recent years. Whether or not this exact heatwave breaks the 1976 record by Thursday evening, the structural shift behind it is not going away once the temperature finally drops. Like and subscribe if you want to stay ahead of these shifts as they continue to unfold throughout the summer. What this week ultimately represents is a forecast that stopped being routine and became something closer to a warning shot. A red heat health alert issued for the second time in the agency's history is not backgrounded. Noise. It is an official signal that the relationship between this country's climate and its everyday infrastructure is changing. Its housing stock and its public health systems are changing faster than many people have fully absorbed. The practical steps are simple enough to follow this week. Stay hydrated, stay out of peak sun, check on vulnerable people around you, and respect the water if you head to the coast. But the deeper takeaway is that this is very unlikely to be the last time a warning like this lands in your week. If this breakdown helped you understand exactly what is happening and why it matters, make sure you are subscribed and drop a like. I will see you in the next one when the next shift in the forecast demands the same kind of attention.